if you were somebody in this role without the perspective of like an SDR, for example, which is that frontline seller, it'd be very difficult to have that perspective. Like, hey, LinkedIn Sales Navigator is for sales development reps to, build lists, to do some research and be more, maybe open up the channel. You're like, well,
Yep.
no, in addition to that, we could bring in other members of the team to help go higher and wider. Um,
Yep.
that's not a perspective that somebody that wasn't in the role might think of, and that's just one of many benefits that you have sitting in the role. Um, to me, I've seen the tech stack get more and more advanced, but also almost like overly complicated.
Mm,
When it comes to how you
yes.
think about your stack, this is kind of not one of the pre-canned questions, but I'm curious to think about what are the like core elements of the tools that you think are just super vital, taking into consideration what having gone through those roles, and maybe some of the stuff that you're using and enabling today. Um, wave that magic wand. What are the key elements of the stack?
Yeah. First of all, I think it really depends on the business needs and their budgets because we've been kind of spoiled when it comes to using tech. There's so much out there, and if we don't know how to use it, then it's just sitting there and we're just wasting money. And so for me, it's like taking a look at, okay, what's the need and what's the budget? How much do you actually need and what can you afford? So I think at a bare minimum, people should have access, and this is just my opinion and how I would like it if I was a seller. But I think at a minimum, people should have access to Sales Navigator. They should be on LinkedIn already. They should have access to Vidyard and some type of tool to like book meetings. That could be like Chili Piper, Calendly. And then another one that I know, and why I'm bringing this up is because a lot of people in those roles, early stage, sales development, they're not always comfortable or confident with how to communicate. So having Lavender, for an example, would be really helpful for them. And then a sales engagement tool, whatever that platform looks like. And then, of course, an opportunity to find those contacts. So I like Cognism. You guys are one of our vendors, and I have a really great relationship with our CSM. So shout out to Samantha Brocklehurst. She's been amazing.
Woo woo.
But was that?
Sorry, that was my shout out. Woo woo.
Yeah, no, she's been absolutely amazing. And so Cognism is another tool I really enjoy working side by side with Sales Navigator. So we can create the list in Sales Navigator and then enrich and enhance that data in Cognism. And that just expands the opportunities even more. So those are some of the basic tools I would use right now.
So just to recap that, you've got Sales Navigator or LinkedIn powered by Sales Navigator. You highly
Yep.
recommend the definitely on LinkedIn, if not Sales Navigator, Vidyard or a video tool, a calendaring system for scheduling,
Yep.
Lavender, which if not Lavender, maybe some sort of other AI tool that can help with writing. Um,
Absolutely.
Sales engagement. These are the sequencer sales engagement workflow management tool on top of a CRM. I'd imagine we didn't
Yep.
mention that. That's kind of like table stakes, right? And then data.
Yep.
Anything else that you can think of that's super primary, or is that the legit need to have? You're not
I mean,
you're not thinking there today if you don't have it.
I think the one we skipped was the obvious one, a CRM. Which CRM are you using?
Yeah,
Because that's where all the data goes and comes from. So that's obviously super critical. But yeah, that's like the bare minimum for me.
yeah. And so I think that the interesting thing about the stack today is that you know used to be maybe CRM, maybe otherwise like a spreadsheet, a
Hmm.
good old fashioned paper and pen, and then a telephone, And so now all of
Yep.
a sudden you go from that to one, two, three, four, five, six, seven more tools. Um,
One more.
yeah,
Actually, I want to add one more, and that would be a tool so that you can listen to your calls and coach yourself. That could
yeah.
be, I think that's critical for development.
They think they're calling these now. It was conversation intelligence, and now I think they say it's revenue intelligence as they expand their categories. But
Yes.
this conversation that's super important, absolutely. Uh, but how blessed are you as a sales enablement leader, and maybe cursed at the same time? Lots of technology, potentially more data, but that sounds like a lot to enable. train
It is.
on and make sure people are using. If that is in fact the right tech stack, how much of that do you think reps are truly utilizing to the full capacity if they're enabled?
Depends on the role. I think sometimes you can also see if you have a great partnership between a BDR and AE, then they can tackle and use the tools differently, or one could use it and not the other. So that doesn't mean that you're constantly every day using all eight tools, or you have all that up and that's what you're doing all day long. You may not, you may not use something to create a video with every single day. You might not, that might not be part of your prospecting to create videos and send them out every single day, but maybe a few times a week. So that's when you need to know how to utilize that tool. And same thing if you have something to put your sequences or cadences in, then you need to pay attention to that on a regular basis. And so I don't know. It's hard to say like how much people should use something versus how much they do in reality. I just think it's important to be mindful from my point of view in enablement with the amount of things that we throw at them, because there's so much. And if you're in your day-to-day role and you're selling, you don't really have all that time to really go into depth. So what's important and how can you summarize and highlight and just show this is what you need for this purpose? And what I've also acknowledged is in enablement, we do so much and we have this vision of what we can create and when we can do different things and training and really enable our sellers. But I think what I've learned over the last year is that all of that is great, but it really doesn't matter in the eyes of a rep until they need what you're doing. So someone can be like, I hear what you're saying, appreciate the training, but it's not that relevant until it's top of mind for them. So at the end of the day, I'm serving the sales rep. So I don't get offended when someone is like, not paying attention or that wasn't useful, because I know at some point it will come back and they will need that information or they will look for that information, and we have it.
Yeah, I mean it's a lot to deal with. There's lots of different personalities, and obviously as you start to expand your business and the complexities of your go-to-market expand, um, having the core stack in place is pretty fundamental.